Now, let me expand on something else. These redactions show that, once again, Comey not telling the truth. The unredactions show for an absolute fact that Comey has been lying to the American people when in his interviews he's claimed he did not tell the House Intelligence Committee that the agents who interviewed Flynn didn't think he lied. He did. He did say that. Let me expand on this when we come back from the break at the top of the hour. Sit tight, my friends. We're just getting warmed up. Hi, welcome back. Great to have you. Rush Limbaugh, having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have, mentoring the nation, including the nation's millennials, and happily doing so. Telephone number if you want to be on the program. We got a full board. We're going to be going to the phones pretty soon here, so if you're on hold, please be patient. 800-282-2882 if you want to appear on the program. Now, so as try to make the complex understandable, let me go through this from top to bottom again in terms of structure. The House Intelligence Committee has been requesting information from the FBI and the DOJ in its investigation into the investigation. House Intelligence Committee, Devin Nunes, his gang, they've been looking at the way the investigation has been handled. They have requested all kinds of stuff. And the DOJ has stalled. The FBI has stalled. They have said, we're not going to send it to you. You don't deserve it. Just because you want it doesn't mean you get it. We got important stuff to do here. Well, Congress created the DOJ. Congress created the FBI. Congress has oversight. The president runs all of that. The Congress is entitled to whatever they want to see here. And the president, by the way, it would not be obstruction of justice for the president to order the DOJ to turn over what Congress has been requesting. That would not be obstruction. This stuff could have been dealt with a long time ago if Trump would have simply decided to tell the DOJ and the FBI, let them have it. Trump runs the DOJ, not Mueller, not Rosenstein. Trump has not done so. I'm convinced because his legal team inside the White House thinks that that would be seen as obstruction of justice, and so he's staying out of it. I think there's another component. I think Trump loves, when I say Trump, the White House, the entire team loves Trump being seen as the victim. They think that Trump, as the victim of these big, bad deep state guys, will solidify the relationship he has with his base. I have no doubt that this is the case, because Trump could have forced this released weeks ago, months ago. But then there wouldn't be any need for the tweets about how unfair the witch hunt is and all that. Now, this does not involve Mueller per se. This is the DOJ and the FBI. And these redactions that were released on Friday, eventually the DOJ and the FBI complied simply because of pressure being brought to bear. And so they released some information that caused the House Intelligence Committee to reveal on Friday a report that had unredacted some of the redacted information. And what was unredacted blew a bunch of things to smithereens, including the fact that Michael Flynn has been railroaded. What was originally redacted was not damaging to national security. It wasn't damaging to other cases going on. The FBI, the DOJ, redacted things to basically cover up their bad judgment and their mistakes that they had made during the course of this investigation of Flynn per se. But it's broader than that because it also includes Comey. So they simply were redacting things to protect themselves from being discovered and seen for what they had done. And now the report has released all of this, and we find out that there isn't a single person who interviewed Michael Flynn who thought he had lied. And yet there he is pleading guilty to that very charge from Mueller. So what the hell is going on? Why did Flynn plead guilty to something he didn't do and that nobody in the FBI thinks he did? And was the judge who accepted the plea in the case told that nobody in the FBI thought Flynn had lied? Was Flynn told? Were his lawyers told that nobody in the FBI thought he had lied? This is why the sentencing of Flynn has continually been delayed and why there's a new judge in this case. Flynn pled guilty to protect his family, to save whatever was left of his estate. You know, he's like Michael Caputo, had to put his house up for sale. He's had to just stop the battle here because he can't afford it. So that's what has happened. That's what the unredacted information is. And these redactions, or these unredactions, show that once again James Comey is not to be trusted. I touched on this briefly in the opening hour. The unredactions in the Friday release of the House Intel report show that Comey has been lying to the American public during his book tour, when in his interviews he's claimed he did not tell the House Intelligence Committee that the agents who interviewed Flynn didn't think he lied. Oh, it's not my recollection. I don't think anybody told me. I'm not aware. Don't believe that's the case. I don't recall having, no. It looks like the FBI was stonewalling on these redactions simply to protect themselves and, to a certain extent, Comey. So if that's the case, what other things are being redacted to protect Comey and the other Obama administration holdovers? And folks, it isn't a small point, because we now have Comey and McCabe on record saying the FBI agents do not think Flynn lied, and one of those agents is Peter Strzok. And the whole way the interview was set up was subterfuge. Flynn was being interviewed, officially interviewed, and didn't know it. He thought he was engaged in a national security conversation as the president's national security advisor during the transition. He had no idea that they were actually conducting an interview based on what they thought he had said to Kislyak. You remember what this is about, if I may hopscotch backwards here. This is about the fact that the FBI, the DOJ, Mueller, all of these people were trying to prove that Flynn had promised a quid pro quo to the Russians. They wanted, and they alluded to this, even though it didn't happen. There were leaks from the deep state all over the news in December of 2016, January of 2017, that Flynn had privately told the Russian ambassador to just be patient, that when Trump's in office, we're going to take back all these sanctions, and we're going to get rid of whatever Obama did, but you can't tell anybody. They actually leaked that that's what Flynn had talked with the Russian ambassador about, and he did not. He did not lie when he said that that's not something that came up. He did mislead Vice President Pence about something which still is somewhat mysterious, but he did not lie to the FBI. And yet he has been railroaded into copping a plea to just that. And when you boil all this down, they've got even less than we thought they had. They don't have anything on Flynn. They don't have anything on Trump. And now we're taken back to these three judges that have now called out this investigation. I've spoken about one of them, and that's the Concord Management case, one of the Russian troll farms. 13 of them that Mueller indicted for having tampered with Facebook and Twitter, that these people had run ads that the Russians had sponsored and paid for. These people who run the ads on Facebook and Twitter, and the purpose of the ads was to tell people that Donald Trump had stolen the election from Hillary Clinton or something. It was all a bunch of lies. Since then, we've learned that the amount of money they spent on ads and the number of ads would not even cause a ripple in the ocean. They could not have had any impact whatsoever. But Mueller, for PR purposes, indicted these Russian troll farms and accused them of trying to sabotage the American election with the placement of ads on Facebook and Twitter. But one of these firms has decided to plead not guilty. They've decided to respond. Mueller never expected this, because these were PR indictments. These are Russians, Ukrainians, There's no extradition treaty. There's no way Mueller thought these people would even respond. So he thought he had a free and clear way of scoring a major PR victory by indicting 13 Russian troll farms for tampering with the American election via Facebook and Twitter. Well, one of them has decided to respond to plead not guilty. They're demanding to see all of the evidence that Mueller has that he used to indict them. They're demanding for all kinds of discovery to see just what Mueller found out, what evidence he's got so that they can defend themselves. Mueller, so taken aback, asked the judge for a delay, a postponement, and the judge denied. So now the special counsel's office has to come up with, and they have to put on display to Concord Management's legal team, all of the evidence they claim to have to prove that these people tried to tamper with the American election. And again, Mueller never intended this to happen, because the reason you indict a bunch of foreigners with no extradition treaty is so that they never hear from them again. The theory is, yeah, we got the goods on them. We know they did it, but they're not going to respond because they don't have to. There's no extradition treaty. Well, these people at one of the 13 troll farms has decided to defend themselves. So as of Friday, 3 separate judges have spoken out or ruled against the Mueller investigation. Now, the first one, and people may not remember this one, the first one was in February. The federal judge assigned to the criminal case against Flynn, Judge Emmett Sullivan, ordered Mueller's team to turn over any exculpatory evidence to Flynn's defense. This would be what we learned in the unredacted House Intel Committee report on Friday, that there isn't a soul at the FBI that thought Flynn had lied. Judge Sullivan in February ordered Mueller's team to turn over any exculpatory evidence to Flynn's defense. Instead, Judge Sullivan issued the order invoking the Brady Rule, which requires prosecutors to turn over previously unfiled evidence that might have a material impact on a defendant's case. 2 days before the judge's order, Mueller had filed a motion for a protective order regarding the use of evidence in the case, including sensitive materials which would be provided to Flynn's lawyers, meaning they wouldn't have to turn over this exculpatory stuff. And implication was that maybe Flynn might not have pled guilty if he'd have known that nobody at the FBI thought he lied. Mueller knew that not a soul that interviewed Flynn thought that he had lied. And yet look what he did. Pursued Flynn to bankruptcy. Pursued Flynn toward the point where Flynn had no choice but then to plead guilty to stop this because he was out of money. And where's Flynn going to go get money? But they've destroyed Flynn at this point. Flynn doesn't have any PR. Flynn doesn't have any supporters. Everybody thinks Flynn's guilty as hell here on innuendo alone, but everybody involved on the prosecution side knows that nobody that interviewed him thought that he had lied. Including, again, Peter Strzok. And then, of course, we had the judge last week, Judge T.S. Ellis, who just excoriated Mueller's team in his courtroom for all kinds of things, including noting that the special counsel's indictment against Manafort doesn't mention Russian individuals, Russian banks, Russian money, Russian payments to Manafort. The judge accused them of just wanting to get to Manafort to get to Trump, that their real purpose is to get Trump. It was unprecedented for a judge to speak this way, and the judge, T.S. Ellis, demanded the memo from Rosenstein to Mueller that gave him his original instructions or charge in beginning this investigation. It's called the Scope Memo. And Mueller has resisted making it public. So has Rosenstein. This judge has demanded to see it within 2 weeks. He did say that he would accept it in private in his chambers. He would look at it himself before making it public. But he said that Mueller should not have unfettered power to prosecute Manafort for charges that have nothing to do with Russian collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians. Now, I just want to tell you something here about this. If this gets thrown out, and that's what this is ultimately about, Manafort wants the case thrown out for basically what the judge said. This case got nothing to do with collusion. This happens before the presidential campaign even begun. This is unfair. The DOJ had already looked at Manafort on these charges and decided not to pursue. Here comes Mueller. We're going to get Manafort because Manafort was close to Trump. If this judge throws Manafort's case out, it isn't over. They'll just change the venue. They'll go back and refile the charges in a different court, different jurisdiction. It won't mean that Manafort's off the hook if this judge grants him a win here in Tosca. Mueller is not going to let this go. No matter what this judge does, he'll find a judge that's not a Reagan appointee or jurisdiction and refile the case against Manafort somewhere else. This will not be double jeopardy because Manafort will not have been tried and found not guilty. If his case is thrown out because this judge says there's no basis for this case, then Manafort will still have to deal with the possibility that Mueller will take it to another court. And, of course, the third judge is the judge in the Concord management case, which I've been describing. So 3 different judges now, either by ruling or proclamation, have dealt serious blows, not only to Mueller's case, but Mueller's intentions. Now, up next, audio sound bites that illustrate this as having an impact on the left and the Democrat Party and their enthusiasm for impeachment. But before we get to that, I got to get started on the phone. So that is coming next, right after this.